The time is 9:01. I will now call the Executive Committee for PlanRVA to order. The date is May 12, 2023. Ms. Firestone, welcome. This is essentially what this meeting is Mr. Spoonhour in?
Mr. Spoonhour is in, and Reverend Nelson is coming over.
Got it. Perfect. Essentially, this executive committee meeting is to go over all of the initiatives that were directed by the full commission and the executive committee, and show how those directives have been accomplished, how they'll be implemented, and then move to have these executed through formal adoption by the executive committee. So it's an exciting meeting. With that, we have a lot of ground to cover, and we've got a lot of folks that are not here, not able to participate because they have other official duties and whatnot. So we're going to move rather quickly. I don't want that to inhibit any discussion at all. I just want to make sure that folks know that as we move through, if you need to throw a flag to slow down, or you have some questions, certainly our executive committee members to have all of their questions answered. The next item on the agenda is a roll call. Ms. Firestone.
Yes, sir. Charles City County, Mr. Adkins.
Road.
Chesterfield County, Mr. Winslow. City of Richmond, Dr. Newville. Here. Richland County, Mr. Spoonhour.
Here.
Mr. Spoonhour, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I'm here.
Martha,
There we go.
monitor the volume on your voice. The TV volume,
Dr. Nelson.
Why can't they hear
maybe you can come down.
Mr. Spoonhour, can you hear us now?
me? Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. Hanover County, Chair Davis.
Present.
Franklin County, Reverend Nelson.
Here.
Thank you. Newton County, Ms. Page.
Here.
Palatine County, Mr. Byerly.
Here.
And Town of Ashland, Dr. McGraw.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Very well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I'll reiterate for those who were not on, this is a meeting to, and thank you all for being in attendance. The purpose of this meeting is to lay out how we're going to execute all of the directives and initiatives that came from the executive committee and the full commission. As you know, our guiding document is the budget, and everything that we have here has been incorporated into the budget for the executive committee's review, has gone through with the blessing of the finance committee. So this is essentially coming back from a leadership standpoint, saying, here's how we're going to implement the directives from the leadership of this organization. With that, the first item on the agenda is we've had a number of discussions come to PlanRVA, the executive committee, and the full commission. We've had insurance, we've had IT questions, all of our service contract. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could we cover item 1A, please? Just to get that out of the way. I don't know.
Oh, my apologies. Yes. We do have a quorum. We've had a roll call of attendees. I received remote participation requests from 2 members and alternates. Mr. Reverend Tyrone Nelson has requested to participate remotely for the following reasons: a personal matter, specifically a scheduling conflict that prevents his attendance in person. We'll take a vote on that.
You just need to take a vote to ratify, be a voice vote to ratify your.
I move that we ratify Reverend Nelson's remote participation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I received remote participation request from Mr. Spoonhour. The reason is a personal matter, specifically a scheduling conflict that prevents his attendance in person. I move that we ratify Mr. Spoonhour's remote participation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Very well. So as we go into looking at a number of our service contracts, we talked about insurance, we talked about IT, we have legal contracts. We are going to form a committee under the bylaws And then have folks appointed, which this committee has to approve the appointments of the individuals to the committee to review all of our service contracts. And I just want to make sure that the information that we're getting from our service providers is not only good, accurate, up to date, fulfills the needs of the organization, but also make sure that all of our service providers, no matter who they are, it's good to always have a review and have an audit that their guidance is in line with our culture, our directives, and our forward path. And so that means that every service contract that we have will be reviewed by the committee. I think it's good to have somebody look at that when we come back to the full commission. We've had some presentations from folks. When we come back to the full commission, we'll have presentations maybe a little bit more in depth than what we've had before, and we'll have the leadership team look at those. I need to have that. I know I can do it through the bylaws, and we talked about, do I need to have a vote to form the committee?
I believe the bylaws call for consensus from the executive committee.
Okay, we talked about, is there a consensus to form a services and contracts committee for review, and then we'll bring the committee member participation back here. So anybody not in consensus? As far as please let the record reflect that there's a consensus and that committee will be formed, and I'll bring individuals back for recommendation and confirmation by committee members. Public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to address this committee? Seeing none, we'll close public comment time. Agenda and amendments. Have all board members had an opportunity to review the agenda? Are there any requested additions, deletions?
Just a comment.
Yes, sir, please.
I appreciate the cover picture on it. All your energy there, very much appreciated.
I had my stopwatch there. I wondered how long it was going to take before we got a comment. Mr. Vice Chairman, do you want to?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Very well. Next item on the agenda is the approval of April 13th, 2023 meeting minutes. Have all board members, executive committee members had an opportunity to review the minutes? Are there any requested deletions, additions, or changes?
Motion to approve.
Minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Very well. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
abstentions?
100%.
Mr. Atkins abstains. Ms. Page abstains. Very well. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, item number 4, comes into directed priorities and initiatives, specifically from the executive committee and ultimately corporately from the full commission. We looked at employee compensation. We obviously looked in the region. We recognize the economic factors that have taken place in this, not only nationwide, but specifically in our region, because that's where it's most impactful and where it's most important. Dan, if we weren't on such a time crunch, I would give you more accolades than I'm able to do now, but I'll make it up somewhere else at the employee pool party or something. But the reality is, I've met with Mr. Van Dornick and Director Schickel numerous times. We went in looking at 7 or 8, right? That's kind of what we talked about, with an opportunity to see if there was going to be any way we could do 10%. So while I know it sounds somewhat counterintuitive, we actually are going to be 50,000 plus better on a 10% raise because of the way we do our billing hours and our structure and the matrix and all of those types of things. So looking at that, and it's fully funded through the budget to give our employees a 10% raise. Now, granted, this committee could do an 8%, where they could do whatever they wanted to. But it would also seem to be counterintuitive to do an 8% raise and get rid of that $53,000. So I know it sounds strange. Does anybody have any questions about that? Want to know the details and the minutiae on how that works? The reality is, if we're able to do a 10%, which I think is well warranted, we're better off to do a 10% than an 8% from a fiscal standpoint, not to mention employee appreciation standpoint, but from the fiscal side. Okay. All right. The next item is local technical assistance to localities. This has been a priority from the full commission and certainly the executive committee. And how can this organization provide more technical assistance through the requests that have come through to us. And we have found a way to do that. We've done two major initiatives. The first was recognizing the ability to have information and to be a depository for that information, and then later be able to be a dissemination information hub, if you will. And so through a very small contribution, raising our dues to the National Association of Development Organizations, we were granted access to a substantial amount of benefits, additional benefits through that, and that check was a whopping $2,000, and we just completely opened up a wide range of opportunities for us. With that, it probably saved us a staff position. That's my personal opinion, but I believe it did. With that, we have new investments that we're able to make that we can fund through our budget to ensure that we're meeting the mandates of the locality. So as an example, and these are examples, it's included, but certainly not limited to, a locality comes up and they're doing a comp plan and they need information. We can aid them and assist them with information from this organization to help their staff members. We would not necessarily get into individual planning cases, but let's say it was something really big. Maybe it was a big economic development opportunity and somebody needed to go somewhere and receive information. We can and will be that organization. And that is something that a number of localities have asked for. You may think that it was simply the smaller localities who would have asked for that. And certainly there's an opportunity. I know Hanover will use that, but some of the larger localities felt that it would be of substantial benefit to have some of that legwork done. And that's kind of where we're going. And I give Martha a lot of credit and from her leadership standpoint in moving this organization, progressing forward to make this happen. So if you want to go through the details, we have a number of new positions that are fully funded. They only take us from 25 to 29, but there's going to be a bookkeeper, which is extremely important, 2 planners focusing on engineering capacity and transportation. Those were the two big ones. And then grant writer, administrative position, and training and professional development, organizational dues. I covered that. Those went up, and we'll talk about that if you want to. The investment came in well below the $500,000 mark at $408,694. And for the accountant in the room, 13 cents. So you happy, Mr. Van Dornick? Those cents can add up. Any questions on that? That's all.
Mr. Chair,
Sir, please.
I'm curious about the transportation positions falling within PlanRVA. They would seem to align better with the RTPO. Why would we consider placing them in PlanRVA? Thank you.
Looking to answer that. Thank you, Mr. Spoonhour. This is Martha. The TPO doesn't have employees. The TPO contracts for all of its staff support through PlanRVA, as does the CDTA currently. So PlanRVA is the place that built the capacity to be able to support those organizations through the memoranda of understanding that we have.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Spoonhour.
I'd only add, Mr. Chairman, that planning district commissions do have transportation within their area of service to the member jurisdictions as well, in addition to the TPO. The planning district commissions also provide transportation support themselves. So.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. So revenue, staff capacity, have I covered staff capacity? Okay. I just want to mention something here, and Mr. Holland's not here, but I've got to give him a lot of credit. Our revenue confidence in this organization is 95.88%. That's huge. I mean, that's for anybody who's worked in the public sector or private sector, and there's nobody in this room that has not worked in the public sector. I mean, in the private sector, public sector, we recognize that. You know, I would always kind of wondered, you know, when you have the folks over here on the Hill and we're here at our localities and we're passing budgets with that big elephant in the room of the state not passing theirs. Having a 95.88% revenue confidence is just phenomenal. Dan, thank you for that. And Martha, it can't go without saying that your leadership has obviously contributed to that. So thank you very much. About 12.5% of our revenue, as y'all know, is passed through. So those are kind of the nitty gritties and don't have an impact to our bottom line. Reduced expenses, we delayed recruiting, reduced some expenses in special events, training, travel engagements, reassigned staff to other programs, and we delayed some capital expense transfers. We're probably not going to talk about it today, but Mr. Van Dornick brought up some budgeting matters and creating some different funds, and they're all in line with GAAP, our generally accepted accounting principles. We talked about that. Was that last Friday, Mr. Van Dornick?
Yes.
Okay, we had just flown in, so I was probably predisposed to being glassed over in the eyes, but you gave a great presentation, and so I think we're going to bring that forward. That's gonna be great. So with that, I think we can move on to number 5. I know we've already taken action, but number 5 again was a contractor services. I wanted to knock that out because in case anybody had to move into their next meeting. But essentially, we want to make sure that all of our contracted services are serving this organization well, and that the people providing those contracted services are fully committed and in line with our goals and our directives. It can happen sometimes when things get stale and complacency takes place, particularly with service providers, that as cultures change, sometimes service providers don't. We want to make sure that those folks are fully committed to the areas that we're committed to. So with that, we're going to move to item number 6, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to go to closed session, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Do we need to identify?
Yeah, just if you could just refer to the code section.
Sure. Mr. Vice Chairman, will you restate your motion,
Yes.
sir?
Motion to enter closed session pursuant to FOIA section 2.2-3711A1.
We have a motion. Is the second stand? Second by Dr. Newbell. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Very well. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are in closed session.